Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions with my co-host Stacie. Today, we are joined by talented actress, screenwriter, director, producer, and now published author, Shelley Thompson. Shelley, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Oh no,
thank
thanks for
you so
joining us.
much for
We're
joining
totally
us.
honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pleasure to get to speak with you today. Our viewers probably recognize Shelley from her work as Barb on Trailer Park Boys. And our most eagle-eye listeners will probably have spotted Shelley in her appearance on Sullivan's Crossing, playing the character of Claire Markiff, the grieving mother that is suing Maggie.
And
Oh, and
that's
sorry. We wanted to give a special shout out to Faith Shavs, who introduced us to Shelley. Faith being a background actress who also worked on Sullivan's Crossing, a great supporter of the channel. She's always interacting with our posts across all of our social media platforms. So thank you so much, Faith, for that.
Yep. So for anyone who doesn't know, Corn Productions is currently looking at Sullivan's Crossing. For our deep dive TV podcast as its season 1 airs. It's currently airing in the U.S. for the first time. It was originally in Canada, where everyone lives in Canada has gotten a chance to see the first season. We have so far only seen 2 episodes of the series at this point.
Yeah. And speaking of Sullivan Crossing, Shelley, your son is also on that show as well, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So your son is T. Thomason. My goal is not to mix up your last names. He plays climbing expert Jackson Canaday, who we are looking forward to seeing more of as the season progresses. And I hear he's also a fine musician.
Well, you're talking to his mother. So, yes.
A little biased.
Yes, he is. I am a little biased. He is a fine musician, and he's recently been signed by a very respected label in Canada, a 6-shooter label for his album coming out in 2024. I was going to say 1994. Oh my God, that's the year he was born. So
Okay.
no, it's coming out in 2024, and yeah, he's terrific. He's talented. He's kind. He's great.
What kind of musician is he? Just out of curiosity.
He's well, this album, I think I never know about genres myself, and I think this is maybe being talked about as pop, but it's very much its own thing. He's a terrific songwriter. His lyrics are really, really important to him, and so well, they're important to all musicians, I know, but I mean, the quality of the lyric writing is pretty exceptional. And so it's not singer-songwriter, but it gives you what you look for from singer-songwriter music, oftentimes in terms of what the lyrics are providing with a pop vibe. It's a lot of fun. There's
Sounds it.
a couple of great songs. Dirty Thoughts, which is everything you want it to be. Yeah, no, he's terrific, and his music is fabulous.
Yeah, that's great. And we'd love to invite both of you back on the show sometime in the future if your schedules would ever accommodate that, to talk more about Sullivan's Crossing once we, of course, ourselves know more about what's going on with that story, and to talk about his career. That would be wonderful if we could arrange that.
I'm happy to put you in touch.
Oh yeah. So yeah, today we're actually here to talk about your new book, titled Roar. This is your first book, actually. It's releasing on October 31st through Nimbus Publishing and Vagrant Press. Roar follows the story of a young transgender woman named Dawn, and they're coming home to see her family for the first time since her transition in the wake of her mother's death. You want to tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, in 2020, I made my first feature film, which was called Dawn, Her Dad, and the Tractor. And it was intended as a family film to really bring the focus onto the struggles that trans individuals have sometimes in reconnecting with families. Many trans people are, vilified by their families, and they lose contact with their families. And so it's always been very important to me to create the dialogue and make sure that people understand how important family and community support and respect is for the trans community, especially at this time, which is a pretty frigging awful time for the trans community, and frightening.
Yeah.
So the movie has done well, and it has hit its target of families. But I wanted to revisit the material and do a much deeper dive into the backgrounds of the main characters, and look at the themes of grief and loss and reconciliation, and how complex that becomes for families of a trans individual. And so that's what Roar is. It's about understanding what a roar is. I don't want to say much more than that. And that's not particular to the trans community needing to find your voice, but certainly at this moment in time, it feels most significant to me. So that's out with Nimbus Vagrant Press, and it's out in the States on October 31st as well. Barnes and Noble across the country, I think, are going to be having it, or if they don't have it on their shelf, I know they're very excited about ordering it for people.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to read it myself. I did read a little bit of the preview of it that Kindle has currently. So how is it different exactly from Dawn, Her Dad, Tractor?
Well, it's different in the way every novel is different from its movie. I mean, everybody says, "Oh my God, that's you've kind of gone backwards," because often you start from a movie and go to a
that's what I was
right.
thinking.
Start from a novel and go to a movie. But because I'm the author of both, I had written the movie and made the movie as a director. And what's wonderful about making film and TV is what an extraordinarily collaborative process it is, and how that creative process is, feeds everybody involved in it. But sometimes as a writer, that what is absolutely in your head is not what you absolutely get to realize, for all kinds of reasons, time, money, so many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so, although I was, very happy with the movie in so many ways, I knew that I hadn't really been able to visit the depths of those characters that I wanted to explore. And so that's why I wanted to go back and write the novel. And it's very different in that there's a lot of backstory that you don't know anything about in the movie. And there are characters in the book who are not in the movie.
Okay.
One of the most important of those is the mom, who has supported Dawn all through her transition. And so she's in the book. She's in the book in a unique way because she's dead, mostly. But she's very much a presence in the book and a character in the book. And you have to read it to find out how.
So she's less of a presence in the movie, you would say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she's in the movie. We know that that's why people are gathered, but we don't get to know who she is.
Right.
And in the book, we get to know who Miranda is through her friends, through her children, through her husband, through the community, and through Miranda herself.
So we first learned about the story from talking to Reed Price, looking into him and realizing that he was part of this movie. Can you tell us what it was like working with Reed Price?
Oh, a joy on every level. And I think everybody you speak to will say that. Reed's a star. He's all the best parts of a star. He's super talented. He's very collaborative. He's very kind. He's very funny. I can't say anything bad. I can't think of anything bad to say about him. Like, even if I wanted to, and I don't. But
we had a chance to talk with him, kind of like we're talking with you now, and it was definitely a pleasure talking to him. He's, in addition to being like really passionate about his work, he seemed like a really down to earth kind of guy. So it was really a lot of fun to talk to him. So how did you end up getting involved with Svens Crossing exactly?
Oh, Standard. I live in Nova Scotia, so service productions that come into the province like that are wanting to bolster their Nova Scotia content for all kinds of reasons. They want, they get tax credits for the people that they use who live here, and that's always good. It helps a budget. But of course, I think they want to be representative of the region that they're filming in. So I auditioned, and I'd worked with one of the producers at the time. So they knew my work. So yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you keep yourself very busy, wear many hats.
I do wear a lot of hats, and when you live in a province like Nova Scotia, you need to, because filming season is relatively short, and it has been until the strike, a lot of come from away work. So it's you have to try and figure out, how to juggle it with your dentistry career. And no,
you work as a dentist as well?
No, I'm not a dentist.
Okay.
That was a joke.
There's an example.
But I'm not dead yet, so
right. You can
never know.
You can still do it.
Who knows?
So how would you compare writing a screenplay to writing a novel? Did you find one process more challenging than the other? Or do you have preference between the two processes?
I definitely, at the moment, I definitely have a preference, and the preference is the novel. The novel, there's nothing is off limits. I can go anywhere in the world I want to go. I can imagine any time frame, any otherworldly situation, like anything. And there are no constraints of budget or casting or
right.
Any of those things. So from an imaginative point of view, we deal with the same strictures that every writer is under at the moment, which is recognizing that we have to be cognizant of where our stories come from and whose story we're telling and why, and how those stories are being told with sensitivity and consideration for the communities we represent. But I mean, that's standard, that we need to do all those things. But the novel just gave me so much joy in doing the deeper dive and letting the imagination run free. I had an extraordinary editor who I hope will work with me on my next book as well, Whitney Moran at Nimbus. And the gift of an editor like that is just invaluable. The dialogue and what you learn about your own writing, about yourself as you write, is fantastic when you have a terrific editor. So I was very fortunate.
So speaking of that, what did you learn about yourself from this process?
What did I learn about myself? Oh. I'm a bitch. Can you say that? No. Cut that.
Sorry.
Well, I'm going to say it again. I'm a bitch to myself. I'm really hard on myself. I struggle for everything to be at 100% all the time, and it's not going to be. I learned that I often, and you might have noticed this, I often use, 12 words where one word will do.
I mean, that's pretty typical of a writer in general.
Yeah, but it's not helpful. And it's interesting. I was working with a young writer this morning who is really talented. And I saw so much of myself, and it's interesting getting the distance, through doing this process and through my own work, and then looking at other writers' work, to recognize how you can help somebody and say, you will strengthen this thing by making it simpler, and that's right. I have a great editor in my home. My husband is a writer himself and worked for years as a BBC producer, editorial producer on literary projects for the BBC on radio. And so his eye and ear is terrific. And he is always saying to me, you're making it way more complicated than it needs to be, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think we all struggle to sometimes make ourselves seem smarter, you know? I'm learning, that's what I'm learning about myself, is that I am smarter than I give myself credit for, maybe. And I maybe don't have to try so hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Makes sense.
Yeah. My husband always recites a quote, and I'm not sure who the quote comes from. Probably Ben Franklin, because he goes to Ben Franklin a lot. But along the lines of, I'm sorry this was so long. If I had more time, it would have been shorter.
Do you know what? I'm working with a producer in Ontario at the moment on another project, and I had slaved over a letter I was sending to a funder, and he said, yeah, and I'd cut and cut and cut and cut, and it took me friggin' ages to cut it in two, and he gave me that same quote. So I've heard that quote twice this week. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you hope you work with this editor again. So does that mean we should expect more novels from you in the future? Is that a direction
I hope so.
Want to go?
Oh yeah, definitely a direction I want to go. I mean, I'll eventually, maybe I'll go back to screenplays. I hope I will. But at the moment, I have found so much joy in this way of working, and many of the frustrations, that can come with the screen world are not there. So and as I get older, my search for a more stress-free life is definitely I'm aware that I'm in search of that very thing.
So between your many hats, is there one that you like wearing the most?
I think cat owner would top that list. Partner to my partner, mother to my kid, trans advocate would be very high on the list. And then novelist.
Great, yeah. So the story of Dawn originally presented itself in a short film, correct? I saw that you had
started with it. Yeah, it actually, interestingly enough, I wrote the screenplay for the whole for the feature.
Okay.
Before I wrote Pearls, which is the short. Mm-hmm. Which is actually out on a platform. You can actually see Pearls.
Oh, I looked for it for a minute and then I couldn't find it. So I gave
it. It's there.
We'll look a little harder.
Yeah,
we look for the movie too.
Pardon me?
We look for the movie too.
We've been trying to get it.
It's not out in the States.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's hard to cross borders for things.
Yeah, and it's not out in the States, and it was on Crave in Canada, and that window is finished now. So to be frank, I don't know where it is or where it's going to be, and that's a source of sadness to me.
Yeah. So hopefully the distributors who are holding it can get their act together and get people to see this project. That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to reading the book and exploring these characters that way. I did read, it was about, I don't know, a 10-page preview that was available on Amazon, and I was dragged right in. I was like, wow, I love these characters instantly. Like, you introduced a lot of characters quickly, and I instantly wanted to hear from all of them more. I think,
my God, that's the best. That's the nicest thing you can say. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'm eager to read the book. It is, like you said, available for pre-order. I noticed Amazon has it for pre-order, Thrift Books. I'm assuming wherever you buy your books, just look and you can find this title. And we're definitely going to get a copy of it and read that as soon as possible. I'll add it to my I got a lot on my to read list, but I'm gonna put that one right near the top of it.
Right.
So you have the short story, or the short film rather, you have the feature film, you have the novel. Obviously, this story is important to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So where did Dawn come from? Like, where was your basis of like creating this world for Dawn and her family?
Well, I have a child who's a trans individual.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, at the moment, there are governments and individuals and calling for trans people to be invisible and calling for the removal of their human rights and calling for removing their healthcare rights.
Mm-hmm.
So the story came from a need to say, look, the world is bigger than a lot of people think it is in terms of the binary.
Mm-hmm.
The notion of a man and a woman, and that's all there is, has been shown for thousands and thousands of years to simply not encompass what people are made of on this planet. That's just a fact. Nobody's making that up to make somebody mad, or nobody's choosing to live a life where they're outside what is perceived to be the norm so that they can be vilified and hurt and murdered. And, it's not a world you're going to choose to live in if you're comfortable where you sit from a gender standpoint. So that's where I came from. I came from a place of trying to show that trans individuals should be given the same respect and consideration and love and opportunity, and that any person is given, and that the parent of trans children hold their lives in their hands when they're offering them recognition and clarity and help to be who they are. And I don't know if either of you are parents, but when you have a child, when you have a child, the only thing that matters to you is your child's health and safety. Absolutely. That's it. It's pretty simple. Mm-hmm. If you have a child, you love that child, you want to make their way in the world as easy, happy, fruitful as you can. And that was my goal. Is to say to people, look, kids need their families. Trans kids need their families. They need to be able to be who they are. It's not a choice. It's not a religious question. These things are not the truth. Those things are not the truth. And so,
sorry, go on.
Pardon me, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, like, I happen to be a mental health awareness advocate, and a lot of where I approach issues is from that standpoint. And the statistics suggest that, like, people who are trans or in that community in general tend to do way better in life when they have strong support from their families. As opposed to when they don't. I mean, I guess that's true of all of us, but that just
no, but you are absolutely right, and I thank you so much for saying that. The numbers bear out exactly what you say, Dave. And if you had a child and the child was born into the world, and you recognized and they recognized that they needed to be someone else to stay alive, what is your choice as a parent?
Right.
You have no choice but to say, I'm going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it extraordinary that the narrative has shifted so dramatically and so cruelly, particularly in regions to the south of where I am. It's very hard.
Do you think the situation is better or worse in your neck of the woods compared to where we are in the US?
Well, I have lots of American friends, and the American people as a whole are wonderful humans. You know, humans are humans.
Hmm.
I feel very sad that there is a small minority that is driving the narrative at the moment. That's really sad. And I feel that so far in Canada, you know, we've put human rights legislation in place to keep those individuals protected, but we can't be complacent.
Absolutely.
There's a movement afoot here to stop teaching about, you know, gender and in schools, and it's a very I don't know that it's ever helpful to talk about right wing and left wing, but it's a movement that is really unfortunate, and it's driven by a particular segment of society that for some reason is believes or is afraid that being trans is contagious or is something people are pressing kids into.
Yeah,
It's
there's a lot of
just
that narrative now.
it's so incorrect. It's just so incorrect. And it makes me really sad when I have conversations with individuals, and I have, you know, been on the kind of gone to the demonstrations and things, and there's such a lack of there's an ignorance, and I mean that in the classical sense, or the sense of, when I say ignorance, I'm not using it in a cruel way, that I'm not saying people are just stupid. I'm saying they have a lack of access to knowledge about these specific individuals. They haven't had conversations with trans people. They don't understand what the experience of transition is. They don't, and I'm not a trans individual. I'm not an expert on what that is. So all I can do is keep being available to listen and trying to do that stuff, and trying to raise trans individuals up, and, you know, advocate for their for respect of their community. And I think things are probably a little less contentious here in Canada at the moment. But as I say, I don't think we can be complacent.
Mhm.
I just don't think there's any room for complacency. And, you know, it's interesting, Dave, that you talk about the mental health aspect, because there's a sense that you can turn trans individuals' experience into a mental health condition,
Right.
when
Which
it's
is,
not a mental health condition,
mm,
but it becomes a mental health issue
Mhm.
when people are not granted the same opportunities or respect or consideration that other people are. Of course, it's going to become a mental health issue, because, like any other marginalized community, you're being vilified and turned into a bogey person, or, you know, it's just, yeah. Honestly, you should, if you get me started on this, I don't stop.
well, yeah, basically, um, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I do
No.
that a lot. But yeah, the mental health care in this country, or mental health care in this country in general, is a joke in this country. Mental health care is even worse. And then when you're talking about the LGBTQ community, I think I got all those letters the right way, right?
They were all
Sometimes,
there. They were
yeah,
all there.
it's a lot of times when we're talking to those individuals for both mental health care and healthcare, their issues are not taken seriously. by the professionals in those fields. A lot of times, they don't have very good access to
Hi, Kitty.
healthcare or mental health care in general because of who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Say hi.
Aw.
She's a cute kitty.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's true. And I mean, healthcare is the same. And even in Canada, it's getting better. And I hope it keeps getting better and doesn't go backward now like it has in the States. But it's still hard to get I'm sorry, to get a professional who understands what your needs are.
Mhm.
They're very specific, and there needs to be a level of sensitivity and kindness and openness to address those things,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tricky, but it's important, and it's as important. It's about defining our humanity. It's as important with the trans individuals as it is with the Indigenous community and the people of color who don't feel they've been heard or seen. But it's about our humanity. It's about recognizing that we owe each other the opportunity to speak and to be heard. And, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Bringing it back to your book that we wandered a little bit off. Sorry.
That's all right. It's all about that. Oh, my cat. I wish you could see her. She's being so cute. Flying all over everything.
How much would you say in your book is true to things that you guys have experienced in your life?
Oh,
I mean, obviously you're still alive, so you're not the dead mother.
I'm not the dead mother, but I share a lot. Oh my God, Mouse. I have a cat called Mouse.
Oh, it's cute.
There, buddy. Look, there. Just say hi and then go away. There's lots of things that I pulled from my own life that are in there, little tiny details. My mom grew up on a farm in northern Alberta. She learned to drive on a tractor. She ran away from home to begin her own life. She wasn't a trans individual, but she was an individual who ran away from home and ended up having to reconcile or trying to find a way to reconcile with her parents eventually. So those things all fed into it. They're not the exact story. And the story of the tractor was oh my God. She's crazy.
This is the most cat thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh my God. Do you show this, or is it just an audio thing?
Yeah, we're gonna see it video. It doesn't matter. It's cool.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Down.
We usually have a lot of dogs that make appearances in our videos. From my end. So it's nice to have a cat.
Yeah.
Like she is so naughty. The story of the tractor was a story that was told to me by a friend who come on, buddy, get down. There was an individual who was a friend of theirs whose father was actually, I can't keep her off the desk. I don't know what the issue is. And if I shut her out, she'll scream. Like she starts to go, why can't I come in? Why can't I come in? So I'm not going to. Anyway, so the story of the tractor came from the germ of a story about a young man who was estranged from his father or struggling with his dad. And his father was diagnosed with cancer. And the young man decided he had to reconcile with him and try and get that relationship back on track. And part of that was it turned into them working on a tractor together that the dad had loved, but knew he was never going to drive again. So that germ of the story came from there. And then it translated and the character of Dawn evolved and emerged. And, in the film, she's an avid soccer fan, but in the book, her soccer world is much more. There's a lot more information about it. So I'm trying to think about the question was how much of our life. Lots of tiny details, but the overall arc of the story is not our story. My child grew up in a rural Nova Scotia spot. And so we were really aware of that community and what that meant. And certainly in terms of growing up queer in a small town, that was very much part of our world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about
Sorry, go ahead.
Can you tell us about the Dawn Fund?
Oh yeah, the Dawn Fund. The movie, there's a prize in Nova Scotia called the Masterworks Prize, and it's given to a work of art that is recognized to have special significance for Nova Scotia in quality and representation of the province, and so it's a big deal. I hope that movie isn't my masterwork because I'm not dead yet. But I'm very proud that it won that prize. And so I was able to it's a cash prize, which I shared with my producer, and I was able to take a portion of that prize and set up this fund. And then for young trans individuals who need help and support in Nova Scotia. And it's being administered by the Phoenix Youth Project in Nova Scotia. Yeah, so that's.
Do we have any other questions?
Let's see that we checked off everything on our list here. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, I did see that you're going to be very busy during the month of November, going and doing readings across Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island for your book.
And on my website.
I did, yeah. Anyone who wants to see where those locations are, that is on Shelley's website, ShelleyAThompson.com. We'll, of course, put a link to that in the description of the video, as well as links to the book and where you can pre-order it and all of that good stuff. Do you have any other projects, anything else you're working on that you'd like to plug now? This would be a great time for that.
Yeah. I have one that's under wraps at the moment because we haven't confirmed that it's actually going ahead. That's a short documentary series. And I have another novel that I'm really excited about getting started on. It's very different. It's not in this world at all. It's called Galilee Jump. And a jump. I live quite close to a valley called the Gaspereau River Valley. And the Gaspereau River has a whole series of what they call jumps. I think there are 13 of them along. And the jump is a mechanism that is couple centuries old for harvesting the Gaspereau fish. They're called Gaspereau. They're also known as there's another name for them, which you guys might know them by. I'll actually look it up. The jumps are a really extraordinary, they're called an alewife, the fish. So you might hear about them in the States as alewife rather than Gaspereau. So they harvest the Gaspereau in the spring, and they use these kind of antique looking structures called a jump, which looks like a long telephone pole, but basically it's attached to a particular type of flat net, and they jump the net out of the water so that the fishermen, sometimes they're called the flying fishermen of Gaspereau sometimes. So it's like the fishermen, when they go to jump that net out, they actually kind of fly because it's a counterbalance. So my next novel is set on the Gaspereau in a fictional village of Galilee. And of course, you know, Galilee is where much of Christ's ministry took place, but it's also Galilee is also an entrance to a medieval church. So it's kind of about the entrance into grace and forgiveness and acceptance themes I'm very fond of. So it's, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's kind of an environmental novel about people coping with environmental anxiety and how that all works itself out.
Great
stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, you're definitely keeping yourself busy. You have lots of things going on for us to look forward to.
Well, I hope so. But that one's going to be a while in the hopper because there's a lot more research at this point for me. So yeah, that wouldn't come out until 2025, I wouldn't think.
All right. Anything else for her?
I think that's all we got for today, unless you have anything else you want to share with us.
No, that's it.
Okay.
All right. Great stuff, Shelley. Definitely a lot of good things that were said. Sorry. So yeah, it was definitely good to have you. Definitely a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for taking time to speak with us and tell us about your book, a little bit more about Dawn and this really important story that you have put out
Thank
there.
you. I can show you that cover if you want. Where is it? Just lift it up for your viewing pleasure.
All right, that's Shelley Thompson's book. It's available in the States October 31st. If you're in Canada, it's already available, correct?
I think it's available online from just about everywhere now.
Okay.
The official launch is the 31st of October, though.
Yeah, so wherever you buy your books, look it up. Roar by Shelley Thompson, and it's sure to be a great read. From the excerpt I read, I'm definitely looking forward to reading the rest of the book.
As am I.
Great. Thank you so much for the
Thank you so much, Shelley.
Yep.
Thank you, Mouse.
Yes.
Goodbye, Mousy.
Bye, Mouse. Bye, Shelley.
See ya.
Well, that was our interview with Shelley Thompson. Some good stuff there, I thought.
Yeah, it was a great interview. Again, thank you, Shelley, so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule and all of those hats that you wear to speak with us. Yeah.
All right. Wow. Okay. So we would like to hear from you. What did you think of the interview? Are you looking forward to her new book? Stacie can be reached at?
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as ourselves. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video as well as subscribing to our channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions signing off.